Welcome to the Education Empowered Podcast by NC Rethink Education, a project from the Virtual Instruction Support Services Division at NC DPI. The Rethink Education NC initiative focuses on rethinking education through purposeful, blended learning instruction. Like and subscribe to our podcast at anchor.fm/NC Rethink Ed or on your favorite streaming service. Hosted by
Christine Barbario
and Betsy Hicks.
Well, we're sure excited to have everybody here today that is joining us. We are so excited to share our final live podcast in our series that is to kick off, which many of you may already be in it, our final of our 4-part mini course series on how to effectively engage students in the hybrid and virtual classroom. This has been really exciting for us. We have had, I think, almost 350 or more individual registrations for the 4 courses, which is just so exciting to see the blended learning work that is going on in those courses and the ability to take that back into districts. So we are going to get started. Today, we are excited to welcome you to the live podcast. Our podcast is called Education Empowered. We've been doing it for a couple of years now, and it is hosted by myself. My name is Christine Barbario. I am the operations manager for the Office of Virtual Instruction, as well as a virtual instruction consultant supporting the Southwest and the Sandhills region of the state. And with me is...
Hey everybody, my name is Betsy Hicks, and I am so excited to see everybody this afternoon. I represent the northeastern part of our state and a little sliver of the north central part of our state, and I am totally excited to dive into how to keep kids engaged when we are talking about learning in a hybrid and virtual environment, because there are so many different ways that we can do that.
Absolutely. All right. We are also excited to have with us today one of our colleagues. Tarisha Eller is with us. She is the Western and Northwestern Regional Virtual Instruction Consultant. She's going to moderate our chat for us today. So we are excited to welcome her and gain her expertise as well. So let's jump into things. All right. So let's talk about, and are the slides moving? No? I am sorry. I think I was not clicking the right things. All right, here we go. So let's talk a little bit about how you can effectively engage students in the hybrid or virtual classroom. So as I mentioned at the start, this is the last of our 4-part mini course series on blended learning. This can be taken as a standalone course, or you can go back and take any of the previous 3 courses. But this course is really unique because it focuses in on various hybrid and virtual learning models. And it also focuses on defining and comparing all of these different approaches. We know that there's a lot of both virtual programs around the state as well as remote academies, but also a lot of hybrid programs where we maybe have one teacher that is supporting 2 classrooms with an instructional aide in another classroom. And so we know that hybrid or virtual instruction is happening across the state in all different kinds of settings. So we really want to talk about the different approaches that you might take. We also want to talk about and let you see some of the advantages, some of the significance to hybrid and virtual learning environments. One thing I always like to point out when we talk about fully virtual learning is that this is not what we did during the pandemic. This is not emergency remote teaching. This is an intentional, planned, high quality way to reach students that have all different kinds of needs. We're also going to, in this course, give you a lot of practical strategies for creative, engaging, and personalized virtual learning experiences. So there's a lot of things that we think you're going to gain out of this course. Now, all of the other courses in our 4-part series are worth 1 CEU and take about 10 hours to complete. This is actually a 20-hour course, and it will give you 2 CEUs once you've successfully completed all of the components. All right, so let's talk a little bit about a blend model. A lot of terms can get used interchangeably within the blended learning wheelhouse. And so some people, when they hear the word blend model, they think we're only talking about hybrid. And again, oftentimes people feel like we're talking about that emergency remote teaching that we did. Maybe we had kids at home and kids in front of us, and we're thinking about that, and that's what we have in our mind. But the blend model is actually the concept of having students that are in one location and a teacher that is in another. So this could be high school students that are going to the media center of their high school, and they are being taught by an off-site teacher from a virtual program. This could be individual students that are at their homes, and they are being taught by a teacher in the building. This could be students that are in the same building as a teacher, but maybe that teacher, as I mentioned before, is teaching two groups of students simultaneously, and they're in one space, and the other group of students are with a teacher assistant or an instructional assistant in another part of the building. So the blend model is about blending together some sort of virtual instruction with some sort of face-to-face instruction. One of the best things about this is the ability that they can simultaneously instruct both your face-to-face kids and your remote kids. And this can be really challenging. I know for many of you during the pandemic, if you were doing this, I know I taught this way during the pandemic, that could be a little bit tricky. And so one of the best parts of this course is that it will give you the tools to do that effectively, which many of us that were kind of like thrust into that so quickly during the pandemic maybe didn't have that skill set yet. And so this course can really build that and build kind of your ability to manage those different components. We'll also talk a lot about things like management, routines, procedures. How do we personalize in that setting? So we'll be discussing a lot of that. One of the biggest pieces of the blend model is the flexibility. I personally think that one of the most significant impacts of fully virtual instruction or this hybrid or blend model is that we are really able to have kids benefit from all different kinds of learning modalities. So if we think about a kid who might be neurodivergent, for example, they maybe in a face-to-face setting would really struggle with some of the sensory input that they're getting. And so when we think about a blend model, they may be able to participate with different modalities of participation that benefit their needs. Or if we have a student who is on hospital homebound, maybe there's something going on for them in a physical sense, they're able to participate in a way that doesn't put their physical health at risk. We might also see kids that are high-level athletes who are traveling around the country doing athletics. And so maybe they need a way to be able to join in and out. So one of the best parts of the blend model is this idea of meeting students where they are and really thinking about multiple modalities of connection with them. What we don't want people to think is that this is putting kids on a computer, giving them some assignments in their LMS, and then just leaving them to it. This is really about thinking differently. This is really about that innovation. All right. So let's talk about some of the things that you will see in this course. So if you register for this course, which we hope everybody does, there are some things that we anticipate that you will see. So first of all, as I keep saying, I feel like I'm a broken record, but this is not emergency remote teaching. This is intentional. This is meaningful. And so we're going to really introduce you in this course to some of these hybrid and virtual models, things like the blend model that I just mentioned, the a la carte model, flipped classrooms, which doesn't have to mean that the classroom happens or the flip happens at home. It could be that it's an in-class flip, that the flipped instruction is happening within the actual face-to-face classroom, and the lab model, which is our name for the fully virtual model. And we're really going to talk about practical strategies and how you can really support this effective teaching. We're also going to talk a lot about the benefits of hybrid and virtual. One of the best parts for me personally in the role that we have been in for these last several years is getting to see the power of hybrid and virtual instruction. I think there's not enough information that goes out about the really innovative and powerful ways that both the hybrid model and the blend model can be used. We just filmed in a county that has a remote academy doing some really innovative work. And one of the things that really struck me was that they are utilizing a model that is based on trying to support beginning teachers in their district. And it's a gradual release. They're also trying to fill needs with students that maybe aren't having access to some of the courses. So there's a lot of possibilities out there. And so we want you to think about some of those benefits. And then finally, we want to talk about how do you do this effectively? I think this is where many of us during the pandemic were trying to figure out, okay, how does this work? What does this look like? How could I do this effectively? This course is going to give you so many great ways to effectively manage and create an online environment that's really beneficial for all of your students. All right, Betsy, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you're going to talk to us a little bit about the course, and then we're going to get into our question and answer portion.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's talk about some of the ins and outs of how to best navigate the course and what to expect. So just so you know, the coursework is all auto-graded. So as you are cruising through the course, all of that work, as soon as you turn it in, you'll get an instant grade. Now, even though you're getting instant grades, the OVIS team, so that's the name of our team, the Office of Virtual Instruction Support, we're going to be popping in and out of those courses to give you feedback and to interact with you in discussion boards. If you would like more feedback in a particular assignment, just ask for it. That's what we're here for. And so when you request that feedback, we are here to give you those scaffolds to help you get better or to just bounce ideas off of each other. But that is not a requirement. We're just here to help you be successful. To register through the courses or for the courses, you register through NESIS. So you register through NESIS just like you would for any of your other professional development. And then all of the coursework will be through Canvas. The course did open in February, even though we're promoting it right now. And the course will remain open until June 20th. You have plenty of time. It's a self-paced course, even though we anticipate that it will take about 20 hours to complete because it's self-paced. It may take longer than 20 hours for some. It may take less than 20 hours for some. Whatever pace is the right pace for you is the right pace. But again, all coursework must be complete and turned in by midnight on June 20th. After that, the course will be closed. As Christine mentioned, you'll receive 2 CEUs when you complete this course. And when you sign up for this course or when you register, you get to choose how you want to apply those. And then you'll work that out with your district. But you will receive your CEUs within 24 hours of completion, and you can download those certificates straight from Canvas. It is easy as pie. Unfortunately, we are not offering partial credit, so you do need to complete the entire course to receive all of your CEUs for this coursework. I will tell you, though, that in completing the coursework, you will have ready-to-go ideas for what you can use in your classroom in the following year, or if you're teaching summer school. There are lots of ready-to-go ideas and plans in the course. So I'm excited to see some ideas, and especially in the discussion boards, how you might implement some of these things and make them your own. This is my favorite part of these live podcasts. These are some questions that over the last several years of doing professional development with teachers across our state that we have gleaned from folks in the field who have been either asking questions about these particular models or who have been working in these particular models and have stumbled into these questions as they've been plugging along. So we are going to start with these first 5, If you have other questions, please, please, please do not hesitate. Pop them in the chat. Raise your hand using the raise hand emoji, and we would like to make this as interactive as possible. So if you have a question that is not covered, let's make it happen. So the first question that we have is, how can I personalize learning for students when I'm teaching online or in a hybrid environment? Christine, one tip that I have is to still collaborate with everybody on your team. I mean, we're still working with folks in our schools who work with our MLL populations, with our EC teachers. We are still differentiating our lessons for students who need high, middle, and low. We're personalizing instruction. Every student is getting exactly what they need. Now, in saying that, it sounds a little overwhelming. Oh my goodness, I've got 150 students on my course load. I can't make 150 lessons to give everybody exactly what they need, but it is okay to chunk and still make sure that students are getting what they need without having those 150 individualized plans. I don't know, what tips do you have?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about is, first of all, personalizing, I think, is such a challenging word because it makes you think each kid is getting something different. But really, personalizing just means, how do you determine what their needs are? How do you determine what their interests are? Maybe how do they demonstrate their mastery of something? So when I think about personalizing, it might be that you're utilizing a choice board. So at the end of a unit, you can give students a choice board of 5 or 6 ways that they can demonstrate their mastery, and all of them might bring out different skills or strengths that students have. It made me think about things like considering using some of the really great ed tech tools that there are out there, and thinking about how can I utilize those so I can provide students with access to different things. And the other thing that just jumped into my mind was pacing. I personally think in the remote or hybrid environment, one of the best parts is that you can allow students to have some autonomy to work at their own pace within reason. Nobody's saying the kid can take 6 weeks to do one thing, but you can really say, we need to be here by this time frame, but you may choose to pace yourself through this in this way. The other thing that was popping into my mind is, I think a lot of times people think you can't do groups with or small group instruction with fully virtual or hybrid, and you absolutely can. I always think about my daughter, her teacher, and this is early elementary in the pandemic at the time. I think it was 2nd grade. She just simply sent out every Monday, hey, these 5 kids are in group A. You need to be at this day, this time to be able to be in your small group. And that was where you joined. So a very simple way. So there's a lot of different possibilities, I think. So those are my thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think those are some great tips.
All right, let's see our next questions.
Yes, question number 2. Are flipped classrooms only for secondary students? Well, no, the short of it is no. As someone who spent my entire career in primary and early elementary classrooms, the answer is absolutely no. My elementary students love doing flipped activities. I found it extremely helpful for my students who needed additional scaffolding. They had things that were pre-recorded that they could go back to time and time again to hear directions without me explaining, without having to stop and rewind. They had it accessible to them. And it was really, really great. Parents could also go back and access that information too, so that they had those scaffolds in place to help their students, which empowered them and built that homeschool connection, which was extremely helpful because as an elementary teacher, I did need that extra support in doing virtual instruction with elementary students. So I think flipped classrooms work really, really well for elementary. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. And it just makes me think of that pacing issue again. One of the things we hear from kids when they're in a classroom that is doing the in-class flip, which means that the flipped video instruction is happening in class. So you're not asking kids to do that outside of the school building or the school day, is that they can watch a video multiple times. So if I don't understand, I can go back over it. I can learn something new from it. Or if I'm advanced and I don't want to spend all this extra time, I can work my way through the video at my pacing and then move on to the next thing. So I think younger students really benefit from that pacing issue. And I think that one of the things that happens is that there is a misperception that all virtual or hybrid instruction needs to happen in secondary. And actually, there are so many great examples of elementary, fully virtual or hybrid models out there that are doing some unbelievable things. So that's my opinion.
So true.
All right.
Okay. I get this one an awful lot, and this is a mixed bag. Let's see. Do students have to turn on their cameras? What should I do if students don't turn on their cameras during virtual classes? Everybody's got a different opinion about this. And I think it really depends on the culture that's established at the beginning of the semester, of the beginning of the school year, and really clear expectations, whatever those expectations are. And I think that's the caveat that really needs to be explored between you and your students and you and your school, is what those expectations are, as long as they're clear. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I also think that you need to know your students and their families. In some cases, for some kids, having a video camera on in their home may not be something that they're comfortable with. And so you may have to kind of like work with your school leaders. You may have to work with other educators in the school you work at to really kind of figure out what makes the most sense. I would say if you're not going to have kids that keep their camera on, how are you going to ensure they're engaged? I always joke that I did not have cameras on at the fully hybrid school that I was at when I was doing, fully virtual teaching. And it was because we found that for a lot of students, it was something that brought a lot of discomfort. But what I did do is I was using my chat. I always joke, I felt like a radio announcer. I'm like, okay, I see in the chat today, hey caller.
Right.
But I used my chat and I was constantly having kids respond in the chat. I was using tech tools that would allow me to see what they were doing. I was having them raise their hands and unmute and talk. So I think if you're not going to have videos on, then what are you going to do to ensure that they're effectively engaged with you? So I think that's the big difference there.
Yeah, and I think that is the perfect segue. Thank you very much, Miss Ma'am. Into question number 4. How can I prevent students from checking out during virtual lessons? Because, can you really prevent them from checking out during live lessons? No, you can't. But if we're constantly taking a pulse on what's happening in our classrooms, if we're doing miniature formative check-ins, right? So just saying, okay, how are we going to analyze what we're going to do next? We've got an idea on how students are engaging with us. And we're also knowing our students. It all boils down to those relationships. And that stems back to exactly what you were just talking about with question number 3. What are those environments like at home? Are we in a position where it's uncomfortable to turn on those cameras? Are family dynamics such that it's too noisy, it's too disruptive? Our background's uncomfortable to see. If that's the case, then yeah, we're not going to put kids in that kind of position. So it's relationships and it's those formative pulses on students and how we're making sure that we're thinking ahead. We're building that plan B into plan A, right?
That's right. I also think, I say this all the time now that I've been teaching for 112 years, but I don't think we take into account what our students face in those settings and what we would be able to do. So like none of us want to sit in a session where it's an hour straight of lecture style instruction. The teacher is just talking away. I feel like it's about being cognizant, short patches of instruction followed by highly engaging activities. And we were just at a conference, and one of the things that just struck me is one of the speakers said, good teaching is just good teaching. And that's really, to me, the message is that it's the same thing you would do in your face-to-face classroom, is good teaching, lots of checks, high engagement activities, making sure every student has a voice, building relationships so that kids feel like they want to participate, having a culture and climate that invites risk-taking. So, I mean, I think good teaching is good teaching, you know?
Yeah, me too.
All right. I think this is question 5.
All right. Can online learning work for younger students, K-2? Yes, please.
That's exactly right. And you know, it's funny. I always say this. I was a 5th and 6th grade teacher predominantly. These kindergarten teachers, y'all are rock stars. I know you were a kindergarten teacher, period. Like whatever setting you're in, being a kindergarten teacher, rock star. But I think it can when it is intentional. And it takes me back to what I said at the beginning. It can't be emergency remote teaching. It can't be trying to do it the way that it was always done. I think it can be done really, really well, but it has to be intentional. The other thing is, Betsy referenced this once already, but we need a parent or caregiver that is a learning partner. You need a coach. Some schools call it that, a learning coach. You need somebody that's going to help that younger baby be able to adequately do what they need to do. That's my opinion on it. Anything?
Yeah, no, 100%. And really, really leaning into the other folks on your school staff. As we get into the higher grades, and licensing gets a little bit tricky, it gets hairy, but in younger grade levels, we've got things like science of reading. And so really, really leaning into our literacy specialists, and just making sure that students really are getting the intentional direct instruction that they need.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think those are all the questions here. Do you guys have any questions? Anybody in the chat? Feel free to type in your question and Betsy and I will try to answer it. Or Tricia or Iris, if you have a question you want to add into the chat, something that you want to, we didn't touch on that you think is important for us to mention. I see Tricia is typing. While we're waiting on the question to come up, we just want to make sure that once again, if you have not registered for the course in NESIS, make sure that you do that, because this is a really great, well-designed course that I think you'll take away so many good nuggets of how to increase that engagement. All right. Tricia's question, Betsy, what are some good ways to build relationships in this type of setting?
There are lots of ways to build relationships with students in a virtual setting. One way is just getting to know your students with learner profiles, just asking questions. How do you get to know anything without asking a question? So building those relationships, asking things like, hey, what is your favorite thing to do when you're not in school? What kinds of shows do you like to watch? Who do you like to listen to on Spotify? Because nobody listens to the regular radio anymore, or Pandora, or whatever the cool new thing is.
That's the truth. I also think, like, we have so many unbelievable virtual educators we've had the privilege of getting to meet, to see what they're doing in their classrooms. And some of the things that jump out to me are things like not starting a class, a live class, a synchronous class, by just jumping into it. Talk to the kids, have for 5 minutes where you're just sharing ideas. Also infusing yourself into synchronous instruction or even asynchronous. I know we have a fabulous teacher from Cumberland County, and she is a Swiftie, hardcore. And so she really tries to incorporate that kind of like enthusiasm into some of the things that she does. So I think making it personal, really trying to find ways to open and offer those moments just for casual talk and conversation. I also think a lot of the best programs offer outside of the academic opportunities, community days, field trips, having where you do office hours where kids could come. I did a thing called Fun Fridays where we just got together every Friday for an hour. It was totally open to anybody, and we played online Yahtzee, or we do escape rooms or whatever it was. So finding ways to bring kids together and families together so that you are able to build those relationships. But it also makes me think of what I just said that got reinforced at the conference. Good teaching is good teaching. When a kid says something in your live session, ask them about it. Get them to share their ideas. Laugh with them. I think all those things that we naturally do as good educators, we want to continue to do in the virtual environment.
100%.
All right. Well, we appreciate all of you sticking with us on a Monday afternoon. For many of us, we just got back from spring break, so way to go, everybody. We appreciate it. But we are so excited by you getting the opportunity to be in this course or any of the 4 mini courses. If you have any questions, if you need any resources or simply registration links, please reach out to any of us. But we hope that you have a fabulous remainder of your Monday and remainder of your school year.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Can't wait to see you online.
This has been a podcast by NC Rethink Education, a project from the Virtual Instruction Support Services Division at NC DPI, designed to empower North Carolina educators. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast at anchor.fm/NC Rethink Ed or on your favorite streaming service. You can find presentation materials and freebies on our Anchor FM site. Thank you for listening.